If you want to support the show, the best way you can is through any of the books or current ongoing Vela shorts that are being released on a regular basis. The easiest way to find this is to go to bit.ly/tmrbooks, and you'll have links there to everything. All of my Kindle books are available for free. If you have Kindle Unlimited, you don't have to pay anything. You get it with your subscription. You can read them all. They're all in screenplay format. That includes Swan Song, The Muses, Duet, In the End, Our Past Does Not Define Us. Anything else that I've written that's available on Kindle, it's available there. You can buy a soft cover if you want. There's a hardcover collection of all of the Swan Song books, all combined into one. That's available as a hardcover. You can pre-order Echo Alpha, which is coming out in November. All of these things are available if you go on Amazon. But quick link, if you go bit.ly/tmrbooks, I have them all there, nice, easily cataloged. Also, down toward the bottom, we have the Kindle Vela content. The first 3 episodes are always free, and then after that, there's a token system that you can use to read. Even if you don't like it, just give it a thumbs up. That way we can get it up higher so more people see it. So one final time, that's bit.ly/tmrbooks, and every Wednesday there's a new Vela book that goes up. Taser and Acrobat, Nanite and Rosebud, Tales from Another World, and The Alchemist and the Illusionist. All go up on Wednesdays, and it's all available on Kindle Vela. All of this is available bit.ly/tmrbooks. Sorry to overload the front, but before we start, one final thing. If you can please go on Apple Podcasts, if that's how you listen, and give us a 5-star rating, that would mean a lot. We're trying to get onto Rotten Tomatoes and sites like that, and we need to get more reviews to be accepted. So if you can go on and give us a 5-star review there, that would be amazing. Thank you very much. We appreciate everything you guys do when you listen. This week on 30-Minute Reviews, Batwoman has had a sizable amount of drama happening regarding what happened behind the scenes. We'll break that down. Marvel has moved all of their release dates. Why is that, and where did they get moved to? Plus, Daisy Ridley might be coming back to Star Wars, and we'll talk about that, and more importantly, the coverage surrounding that, this week on 30-Minute Reviews. Welcome to 30-Minute Reviews. I am Adam. Quick housekeeping for anyone who is tuning in to hear my thoughts on anything that came out of DC fandom. We did that already. We covered that on Saturday, or on Sunday. Me and Josie did a live episode where we talked about everything that came out of DC fandom. So if you're looking for information about that, like what I thought about the Batman trailer, or the trailer for The Flash, or the trailer for Black Adam, or the concept art from Aquaman, or what they showed from Shazam, or the Icon animated movie, or anything like that, check that out, because I really don't want to waste the people's here's time talking about it again. And I've made my thoughts on it pretty clear. I don't think rehashing it is helpful for anyone. If you're looking for Dune, I did a spoiler-free review of Dune last night on Beware of Spoilers after I saw it. This weekend will be another episode of Beware of Spoilers that is Dune-centric, but with a guest, and we're going to dive deep on all things Dune, including what would be happening in a Part 2, should it happen, what would happen in a 3, which would be Messiah, what would happen in later movies, what happened in the 2003 show, what happened in the, what's it called? All of that good stuff will all be discussed there. So if you're looking for that, stay posted, keep you posted for this weekend. So let's dive in. Now, one of the news things that kind of happened that was not related to DC fandom, but still DC related, was we learned a little bit about Batgirl, the the movie is going to be on HBO Max with Leslie Grace from In the Heights in the titular role. Not much was given about that, besides the fact that, yes, it is happening and all of that. There was an interesting quote where Leslie Grace said that the real Batman, quote, the real Batman, will appear in Batgirl in the movie. And I think it makes sense because Batgirl, her character is that she's inspired by Batman in the city, sees him do the right thing and be a hero, and inspires her to go out and do the same thing. So it does kind of make sense that you would need to have a Bat in that world who's already active for her to take inspiration from. I figured there was a chance they could go the Batwoman route, where it's like Bruce has been missing for God knows how long, so we have to, live in that reality, and then she's going to fill the void. But we'll see. But she says that the real Batman will appear. Now let's break that down, because there are about 80 Batmen in the DC universe right now. Off the top, I don't think it will be Ben Affleck. I think Ben Affleck is going to appear in Flashpoint, but it'll be a small role, not a major starring thing. I think that for him to come back and do a larger, sizable thing would be, outside of what he said in conversation about what happened. We know he had a bad experience on the Justice League set. He came back for what's it called? He came back for the Snyder Cut for the reshoots, but I don't think that he's gonna want to get into shape unless it's like a Batman Beyond type role where he's the older Bruce Wayne who has hung up the cowl. But we'll see. You know what that is. I don't think it will be Robert Pattinson either, because I feel like with this casting and who they've cast as Batgirl, yeah, you can say she has a dark origin story. You can make the origin story as dark as you want. You can do, all of that. But at the end of the day, it's Batgirl, and the way that Batgirl has been historically portrayed, while she's Batgirl prior to her rape and paralysis by the Joker, it's always lighter. It's not, Dark Knight kind of like, we're like, everything's dark, everything sucks, everything's terrible, my parents are dead, everything is awful. Like, I wouldn't expect her, like, the Robert Pattinson Batman looks like it's very much like, if we see him outside of the Batsuit, it's going to be infrequent and not, important. And he's still going to be sullen and depressed. I don't think that we're going to see much of, what's it called? We're going to see much of that in that movie, and I think that they spun out and it's like, and here's Batgirl, and she's light and fluffy and happy, and, and the thing is, too, I think that, like, even, like, Batwoman, the way Ruby Rose played Batwoman, I can't speak to Javicia Leslie's portrayal of Ryan Wilder, but there was a certain, like, dark to it. I don't think you're going to get as much of that in Batgirl. And I think that, even with this casting, we're not going to get that. So I don't think it meshes well with that world. I think if there's a Batman in this movie, her saying the real Batman is here, I think they recast and there's a different Batman, or it's Michael Keaton. But I don't think it mixed, like, her, like, Batgirl and her being cast as Batgirl based on how she was. Keeping in mind, I've only ever seen her in one movie, but I think most people have only ever seen her in one movie. Based on that, I don't think she can, I don't think it would mix well. Alternatively, since this is an HBO Max thing, and it is an HBO Max original movie, they could just go with the Titans Batman. If they go that route, that's also a possibility I don't think people are addressing, because there is a Batman on Titans, so that's also a possibility. The next thing is just something that kind of piqued my interest, and it does. Here's the thing. We're getting close to the release of Pokemon Shining Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, whatever the hell it is. They remade Diamond and Pearl. If you played Diamond and Pearl in the mid-2000s, they remade those games. You're going back to the Sinnoh region. You're going to watch, play through the same story you played in Diamond and Pearl, and the same complaints that we get every time one of these things happens is happening again. This has all happened before, it'll all happen again, because this happens every time there's a fucking remake, and every time people get pissy. And you know what? Let me preface this a little bit. So, when the first remake of a Pokemon game was Fire Red and Leaf Green, and that was a technical issue caused the need for those games. And I don't want to say need as much as like a demand for those games, or it created an environment in which those games could be made, because the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy, the original Game Boy and the Game Boy Color, could communicate. The Game Boy Advance and the Game Boy Color could not. So while you were able to trade between Red and Blue and Gold and Silver through the time capsule in Gold and Silver, you were not able to trade between Gold, Silver, and then Ruby and Sapphire. This created an issue where Pokemon caught in Gold and Silver couldn't be transferred into the new games to be used there. Then came an issue where it's like, well, how do we get these Pokemon into the game? Because in the native source code for Ruby and Sapphire, even to this day, if you go online and download a ROM, so what happened was they created Fire Red and Leaf Green, which, you know, the original 151 were in, plus some extras, plus there was a few other Pokemon from Gold and Silver who were there, which was an interesting way of bringing in some of the Pokemon. Then there were still a few that you still couldn't get from Johto, from Gen 2, from Gold and Silver. Then games like, what was it called? Colosseum and XD had those Pokemon in. So functionally, to complete the Pokédex in Ruby and Sapphire in 2003, a game that had in the source code every single Pokemon of the 386. Now, all that is to say that, you know, there have been things like this before where it's like, you need to spend an exorbitant amount of money to get all the Pokemon, even if the game has them all in the code, which is one of those things that, like, I think people forgot about back when, what's it called happened? Back when Sword and Shield happened, and people were pissy about how Sword and Shield didn't have all the Pokemon in it, and only certain ones got in, and then there was DLC to add in some, but not all. A lot of people got really pissy about that. And one of the things that would be one of the things I like to remind people is that, look, this isn't the first time this has happened. While there was a technical reason the first time, the second time it seems it's just, I don't know if incompetence is the right word or something else, but when that happened with Sword and Shield, people got, you know, pissy about it. And when you look at that, what happened back then, and then you look at how it gets broken down and what the ability of the game is, which has been done by ROM hackers, there is a way to create a game that doesn't have a requirement the way that I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but like you could have modified, like, there are people who have modified the game and not done anything extreme, and made it where you can play the game without having to buy a GameCube to get in certain things, or, you know, go to Toys R Us with a third game to get Mew. And it's like there are a lot of ways to to do it. They just opted not to because money ultimately is what it comes down to. It's, you can contract with Toys R Us and GameStop to distribute Pokemon. You can get people to buy another game to have this little thing, and it's like, I said it at the time when they announced the DLC packs for Sword and Shield. I said, look, I would have rather they did this than released Z, or not Z, like Pokemon, I don't know, Gun, I guess, like a third version of it, where you have to play through the entire story again to get to what is functionally the DLC area. If you take Emerald and break down what Emerald is, the big add-on in Emerald was the addition of the Battle Frontier, which is a big open area that you can go and play around in, and there's like 8 little mini gyms and all these cool battle types, and there's new Pokemon you can catch there, and there's all kinds of stuff in there, including a Sudowoodo, and it's like, that's there, that's cool, I understand that, but at the same time, like, if I have to play through the entirety of the story of Ruby and Sapphire, modified slightly, because it's, not one or the other, it's both Aqua and Magma are fucking things up, like, yeah, I would rather not have to play through the storyline again to get to that point, so I'd rather do the DLC. Especially when the DLC in total comes out to the same price as paying for the new game again. So, the controversy that really piqued my interest was the same controversy we had, I think, going back to not even Sword and Shield. I think this goes back even further to Sun and Moon, which is the change to the XP share. For those of you who don't play Pokemon that deeply, the XP share is a hold item that debuted in Generation 2 when hold items first debuted. And what you can do is you can give it to another Pokemon in your party, so that way while your main Pokemon is going through plowing through everything, this little guy that given the XP share to will get, I think, like half of the experience. Like, if the Pokemon in battle gets 100 experience, the one not in battle would get 50. And it's like, okay, that's cool. Or maybe it was like, if it would have gotten 100, it gets like 75, and the one outside gets 25. There's a calculation to it, but it doesn't get the full amount of experience. So that by the time we get to Gen 7, they get rid of that. Or by the time we get to Gen 6 is when they changed it to the XP All with X and Y. And what happened was the XP All, you could turn it on and off, and it would share your experience with your entire party. And what this did was it allowed you to quickly level up. And I don't know. Of all of the things they've changed over the years with Pokemon games, this is the most innocuous, because, like, I feel like the least fun part of a game is sitting there running around in the wild Pokemon area, fighting wild Pokemon over and over and over again, and doing it, like, not just one time, but like 6 or 7 times to get a party functionally strong enough to be able to do things. Like, it felt tedious, and it's like, yeah, grinding is a part of an RPG for sure. The grinding is still there, it just takes less time to grind, and I'm fine with that. That said, you would have thought that the Pokemon Company said that in order to buy this next game, you would need to sacrifice your firstborn child, or sacrifice your mother, or let the CEO or whoever's in charge of the Pokemon Company fuck your mother, because people got so vitriolic over something that's been happening for about 5-6 years now. Like, I genuinely do not understand how this happens where people are still this shocked. Like, what about anything that's happened over the last 5 years makes you think they're gonna not double down on what's been widely regarded as a fine decision because sales haven't dipped as a result? Like, if you don't like it, don't buy the game. That will send the message that you do not like the decisions they're making. Ultimately, that's what you need to do. So, I mean, that's what I have to say on the matter. It's like, the XBL is back in the game. If you don't like it, don't buy it. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, if you don't like it, like, I don't know what the other alternative is. It's like, they're not going to change it. The game is a month out. Literally a month out. It comes out in, like, 28 days. So, if you don't like the fact that the XBL is in the game, the only thing you can do is not buy the game. If you're like me and you don't care and you're going to buy the game anyway, because, like, for me, like, Ruby and Sapphire were my favorite games, but Diamond and Pearl were a close second. I logged a lot of hours in Diamond and Pearl. So I'm definitely gonna buy it, but like I don't like like that's a fine quality of life improvement for me, because it's like I don't have the time to sit there and play this game to the degree you need to without the extra share doing what it does here. And we've been going on too long about this, so we're going to move on to the next topic. We have a lot of topics that are kind of broad. There's a new expansion for the Nintendo Switch Online. This broke late last week, but after I'd already recorded the episode, so here we are. And please disregard the sirens. I'm sitting in my car in my usual parking lot area, and there's a traffic jam and there's an ambulance trying to get through. Hopefully whoever needs that ambulance isn't in a life-threatening situation. Otherwise, I feel bad for their next of kin. Nintendo Switch Online is getting an expansion. This is another thing that... One of the things I'm realizing is that the Nintendo fan base as a whole is probably one of the most entitled fan bases on the planet, and then masquerades their entitlement as, oh, they're not doing what's good for the consumer. I've talked about the warped way we define anti-consumer practice when it comes to Nintendo in the past, but this new pass is an add-on for Switch Online, and it's explained that way in the video, which is why I don't quite understand why the video is getting so much hate. Is if you have Switch Online and you just want to play games online, you can do that. Like, you can play your Nintendo Switch games online the same way you have always for the same $10 a year, which is a phenomenal price for online gameplay, where of, the consoles, it's the cheapest by like a factor of 6, because it's like if you go for PlayStation or you go for Xbox, you're gonna pay $60 for a year of Xbox Live or PlayStation or PlayStation Plus. It's expensive. The fact that it's 10 is a very good deal. You can get a family plan for $35, and it's like 4 accounts for $35, and that's also not a bit. That's an even better deal for a year. And people got pissy because this expansion, which includes the N64 games and Sega Genesis games, plus you also get access to the new DLC for Animal Crossing. It brings up to $50 for the entire thing, and people are pissy about it. And I'm like, why are people getting pissy about this? Like maybe it's a disconnect that maybe I just don't understand. But like, think about it for a second. It's like the way this is working is for an extra $39 a month. That sounds about right. Based on what I have written down here, we are giving you access to. I'm sorry, $39 a year. We're giving you access to an ever-expanding library of titles that you can play on your Switch whenever you feel like it. And these games include, like, if you look at it like that, where it's like, we're going to do that, we're going to have Sega Genesis games, which is a console we don't even own, but we have a licensing deal with Sega that we have to pay for, so, that happens. And I think people are like, well, I can just pirate the games online for free. It's like, okay, well, it's like, would you go into GameStop and be like, hi, can I have this for free? It's like, well, no. It's like, well, I can just take it and walk out, and it's like, okay, well, you can, but you shouldn't. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, we're offering you a service for money. It's like, the fact that you believe you should be entitled to it for free is not an indictment of the company who's offering you the deal. It's an indictment of the person who believes they're entitled to free product. Like, and look, if it was something where it's like, if they were charging the price of PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live Gold, and then it's like, oh, and then we're going to throw on an extra $40 on top of that, where you're paying $90 a month, and it's like, look, that's not great. And historically, Nintendo servers haven't been great, but you're paying $10 a month for the not great servers. Like, it's not like if you were paying the full $60 and the things were, and things were what they are, I could understand the vitriol. But again, I don't understand the vitriol for, it's not we're hiking up Switch Online's rate and you're not getting anything out of it. It's we are offering you a service that you are free to subscribe to or not subscribe to. like, it is up to you. It'd be like if there was if someone decided to put up a new streaming service that only had older TV shows that no one, watched anymore, and it's like, well, I could probably find it on Dailymotion. Like, if MeTV had its own streaming service of the TV shows that it runs that, like, aren't on, like, Hulu or Netflix or anything like that, and it's like, they were like, we have Hazel, we have, like, the Paul Lynde Show, we have, like, Father Knows Best, we have all these things, you can watch it here, you can pay us this thing, and people were like, fuck you. Like, no, like, why is that okay there but not okay here? And it's because people have come to expect that you can do this for free. So moving on to the next story, there was a meeting that happened between Kathleen Kennedy and Daisy Ridley, and we know this because of a really weirdly reported story. And the story was, I think it was from Inverse or for Comic Book Resource or from Screen Rant. I don't remember which, but the headline read, and these headlines are always convoluted because they're designed to be SEO optimized within an inch of their life. So it's kind of like what would happen if you could figure out a way to come up with a headline that feels like a news feed on Google News had a seizure and showed everything all at once. That would be what happens here. So the headline was like, Ray actress Daisy Ridley remains friends with on-screen mom Jodie Comer. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, what? Like, okay. Like, and it's one of those things where, like, you read that, you're like, all right, why the fuck am I, like, why do I care? And, like, you read the article, and it's like, Daisy Ridley had a sit-down in prep. She was doing press for a new podcast she's on, which is, like, a narrative podcast, kind of like how they did one for one of Neil Gaiman's other things that's not Sandman. I think it was Everworlds, I think it was called. But they did one like that, and it's a podcast, but it's an episodic, thing that tells a story. Or like Welcome to Night Vale is the more contemporary example that everyone fucking knows. So, she's on one of those, and she was doing press for it, and she was asked a question about Star Wars and how it's like. She's like, yeah, that chapter of my life is mostly over. I'm still great friends with a lot of people, like me and John, referring to John Boyega, still talk a lot, because they both kind of came into their own during this time, and hit the mainstream in a huge way because of Star Wars, and really made their mark on a theatrical level, with Star Wars. And then she still talks to, I forgot who the other person was. Then it's like, me and Jodie text all the time, referring to Jodie Comer, who played her on-screen mom in that one scene, but they do not share a scene together in this movie at all. And I just had lunch recently with Kathleen, and referring to Kathleen Kennedy, head of Lucasfilm. Now, I think that if this lunch happened and the topic of a Disney Plus series or a movie or 3 was not discussed, I think that Kathleen Kennedy is not doing her job as the studio head. I think that if we are out there believing that this conversation did not happen, that would make us naive as people who read entertainment news. That would make us, to not say that happened and be like, look, this could mean something's coming down the pipe. Especially as we get closer to Disney Plus Day next month, where they're going to announce, here's all our new stuff coming. Like, I feel like that conversation may have been for something. I can't say that it is or isn't, because I don't have any contacts in Lucasfilm to say one way or the other. If I was someone who had one of the other sites, I could be like, I have an exclusive, and an inside source told me that they're making a Rey show on Disney Plus, but that's not the case. I can blindly speculate to say they're doing a Rey show post Rise of Skywalker because they haven't really explored that era yet. But in the expanded universe, but we can't say definitively one way or the other. There's a second trailer for Hawkeye. I'm gonna make that a quick one. It looks fine. It doesn't make me want to watch the show any more or less than just I was going to anyway. So like, it's not gonna sell me anymore on this. I feel like my thoughts still stand that the least interesting character of this Hawkeye show appears to be Hawkeye. because you could have done this show without Hawkeye and just did it with Kate Bishop, and it could have been just as interesting. Like, I feel like they could have done this show as just Kate Bishop, and especially when we know that, like, at least Prophet to me, Yelena, I feel like they needed to have an Avenger connection, and I feel like Yelena would have been, not quite there yet at this point in time, so they do need, like, Hawkeye to kind of put her on that path to meet an Avenger, but, like, and they can't really use Spider-Man, I don't think, because the rights are tied up at Sony, and we haven't had a resolution to Spider-Man as a wanted murderer yet, so who knows? I mean, that's probably why Hawkeye's there at all, is to get to that point, but we'll see. The Haunted Chocolatier is the new game coming from ConcernedApe, the developer behind what's that show called? What's that game called? Stardew Valley. The trailer was revealed yesterday. It looks really cute. I love Stardew Valley. The game looks like more of the same, but with a slightly different twist. I haven't seen any negative reaction. I haven't actually gone looking for it either. I feel like if I were to be devil's advocate and be like, oh, well, I don't like this because it would be, you probably could have done this as an expansion to Stardew Valley and not a standalone thing. But I'll play it anyway. It looks pretty cute. And it looks fun. Like, even if it is a lot of the same assets, maybe it's just for the trailer because it's still in early development. They use a lot of assets from Stardew Valley. Maybe it'll be, better than that. But we'll see. The two biggest stories of the week, besides Alec Baldwin killing someone, I'm really nothing to address with that. It's a tragedy what happened. I have nothing else to add to it because it just happened yesterday. The two biggest stories of the week. First, Marvel has shifted all their release dates, and that would be, by 3 months. So, Multiverse of Madness is moving to May, or June. Hang on, I have a picture of it. Okay, so here are the release date lists. I found it. Okay, so Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness moves from March 25th to May 6th. Thor: Love and Thunder moves from May 6th to July 8th. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever moves from July 8th to November 11th. The Marvels moves from November 11th, 2022 to February 17th, 2023. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania moves from February 17th to July 28th. The Untitled movie on July 28th is removed from the schedule. The Untitled movie from October 6th, 2023 is removed from the schedule. And the Untitled movie that is dated for 11/10 moves to 11/3 of 2023. The only movie that does not change its production, that does not change its release date, is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which is still on track for its May of 2023 release date. So that's all cool. That's that all is pretty awesome. So, and the reason for this is not to do with COVID. They were very clear about that on the red carpet of the Eternals. This is not a COVID-related change. This is a production-related change where Multiverse of Madness is still doing photography and still in post, and it's not going to make that March date. So it had to move back. Thor: Love and Thunder was slated for that date and then couldn't move up because it wouldn't be ready. It would be ready for the May date. So everything had to slide down to adjust for Multiverse of Madness not making its release date. So that's what happened there. And Multiverse of Madness is because they started filming they have postponed filming because of COVID. They changed directors, and it was a whole big thing, and it's kind of the linchpin to set everything in motion, it appears. So you couldn't do that and then move everything else to adjust for story-related reasons. It's like TV in that regard, where it's like if a TV show episode doesn't come out, you can't just push one to a different part. And the last story of the week, the biggest story of the week, comes from Ruby Rose and what happened on Batwoman. So last year, after Batwoman season 1, Ruby Rose announced she was not coming back for season 2. And she departed the show on her own. She's like, I'm not coming back. I'm done. Not doing this anymore. She had gotten injured on the set of Batwoman early in the season, and then came back and was on the show. She didn't want to be there. And all of that. So, she always would get asked, "Are you going to come back for Batwoman? Are you going to come back for Batwoman? Are you going to come back for Batwoman?" And then originally it felt like they were going to kill off Kate Kane and then replace her. But then after a little bit, they're like, no, we're not going to kill off Kate Kane. We are, we're just going to do a new character entirely. So that was, toward the beginning of this whole thing. Then she kind of did this, like, scorched earth Instagram, like, story, like, series where she alleges that on the set of Batwoman, like the showrunner and all that worked everyone like work animals, and they were horrible. And DeGray Scott, who plays her father on set, in the show, was abusive towards her, and the showrunner was abusive, and the directors were abusive. And it's like she wanted to do it, but they made it hell for her. And the reason why she's never coming back is because that set is toxic and all of that. Now, when I heard this initially, I was like, that's a little weird. Because the thing is, it's like, when you look at the other shows on the network, on the CW, on HBO Max, and the other shows overseen by Berlanti Productions, it's kind of like, they're very quick to handle issues like that. Like, publicly. They're not people who are like, we're going to fire you because you have a complaint, rather than address the complaint. So, because, like, if you look at it, like, Hartley Sawyer got fired over tweets that he had. Not over on-set behavior, but he had poor taste tweets, offensive tweets, and he got fired immediately. Allegations into Andrew Kreisberg came out, and he was fired immediately, or put on administrative leave, or whatever the terminology they want to use is. But, like it or not, allegations come out, they are quick, and they respond to those quickly. It does not. It struck me as weird when she was alleging that she made allegations and then they fired her rather than handling it the proper way, which is investigating and all of that. So, all of that is to say that then what happened was Warner Brothers TV decided to weigh in on this. And, rather than let it just go under the rug, they said, oh no, that's not what happened. Like, we had multiple complaints about her on-set behavior, to the point where we had to fire her and not pick. They didn't say fire her. It's we didn't pick up her option after season 1. And if you look at all the other shows, The Flash, Arrow, Legend of Tomorrow, Supergirl, Titans, Doom Patrol, Swamp Thing, which only lasted 1 season, so that's not a good example, and all these other shows, no other leading role or major supporting role was recast after 1 season on any of these shows. And knowing that there's an option to not pick up the contract of your leading actor in a show that is titled after the leading actor's character is a big thing to put in there, and a big thing to not pick it up. So that happened. Then, right before this week's new episode aired, because they're now in season 3, Cameron Johnson, who plays Luke Fox, aka Batwing on Batwoman, steps in and says his thing, and he's like, no, hang on, I got the actual tweet right here. Let me grab it. So here's his tweet. I couldn't go the whole day without saying something. I love you all. I don't think I've seen all that love today. But yeah, she was fired, and it's very hard to be fired when you're the lead. Imagine what you have to do for that to happen. And then came allegations from a PA. This is courtesy of Comic Book Resources. When I first got into the industry, I was very fortunate to get on certain shows like Supergirl, Sabrina, and a few features here and there. But the highlight of my entry in film was season 1 of Batwoman. I was an actor aspiring to know more about the film industry, and when the job came up, I was excited for being a huge DC and Warner Brothers fan. I jumped at the opportunity. My philosophy is that I could learn as much as I could on set and then go and do my own films. Little did I know of the hell that would await me on these sets. The production company was professional, dialed in, and in every way fantastic. The crew was lovely, hardworking, and dedicated to countless night shoots. It sounded like an amazing experience in the making. Then came Ruby Rose. From day one, where her supposed injury stopped her from doing 60% of her job, she began her first day on the show not acknowledging a single crew member besides anyone above the line. And as the days stretched on, the 18-hour Saturdays for some of us and the crew, things got worse. She showed up late most days, didn't have her lines memorized, and whenever she interacted with anyone below the line, production assistant, Alex, crew, grips, it was as though we were beneath her boots. She stormed off set, she yelled at people. Whenever she interacted with any of us production assistants, we were disregarded as the trash we picked up. One day, at the studio, we spent the entire morning setting up her requested green room with 6 heaters because she was used to the Australian hot weather and her table of snacks, only to have her show up, giggle, walk away, and say she's good. We chalked it up to another Ruby's just giving orders for the sake of giving orders moment and moved on. Then I was holding a door open for her after having worked for over 15 hours at that point in the freezing cold weather. She came billowing through the door I had just opened and she spilled her food. She looked at it, then up at me and said, "Well," and stormed up after me to clean up her mess. This is what it felt like working beneath Ruby, cleaning up her mess. She never thanked us. She only made demands that left us all physically and emotionally and physically exhausted. She was a dictator to work for, but and having been nothing but a production assistant eager to get into the industry, she made me consider quitting. If this was the industry I was getting into, I was sure as hell wasn't going to work for entitled tyrants. Living downtown, I met one of her close friends on a dating app, and he shared stories of them partying, getting high all the time on an assortment of drugs, and funnily enough, the days where she showed up 8 hours late to set were the days he spoke about. He didn't care for her as long as she didn't care about how long we waited for her to make sure everything was perfect and ready. She just cared about her personal party lifestyle. We worked countless long days getting into overtime because she was either late or not off book. For some reason, other relating to her not wanting to be there. From the moment we started the show, she made every new person that came on uneasy and unsupported. She was a horrible star and made so much of us feel like we were helping to make a show for a dictator. And I think that kind of corroborates what Cameron Johnson said, in so much as he never really appeared to have any disappointment over the fact that she was leaving, and then it's like when the allegation came out, she's like, "Oh no, she was fired, and you need to be pretty bad to get fired as the lead of your own show," and that kind of tells me that her side of the story is inaccurate. And I feel like that, because that's the thing too. It's like, when we look at this for what it is broadly, I think that, initially when I heard this, I was like, all right, let's hear her out. Because I did a little looking, and it's like, well, maybe it's just the showrunner was a new showrunner and she didn't, this wasn't something she was up to. She had never done something like this before, and it's like, well, no, she was on Legacies for a while, and she had done big budget television before, so that couldn't be it. But it just didn't strike me as what was accurate, and it seemed like what she was hoping for was when a separation like this happens. Where it's a big name star in a show, what they'll say is, we will give the star the option to say that they walked away. And what she was hoping was that, she knew she would never be welcomed back on the set of Batwoman. So she wouldn't be able to say, oh, I'm not going to be welcomed back there. So I need an excuse as to why I can't go back. And I need to be able to put to rest all of the questions that people keep asking me. Again, this is all speculation on my part. This is not anywhere on the record. This is me looking at what happened and trying to figure out why you would make these allegations when they are easy enough to disprove. And when enough people are willing to come out and say, oh, no, that's not true. Especially because they're not bound by NDAs. And so she comes out and makes all these allegations, and that would be like, oh, so she doesn't want to go back there because of the trauma she faced. That's understandable. But now it backfired, and now it's just kind of making all the, dirty secrets about Ruby Rose come to light, where it's like, this didn't need to happen the way it did. But because you started it down this path, you've made your bed, now you have to lay in it. Let me see. I think that's the last of the news. I'm not going to do a movie review because I'm exhausted. And it is 6:30 and I've been up all day. Let me take one last look. That is everything. All right. Cool. If there's any updates, we will be back with that next week. And we will be doing the Final Destination movies next week. So until then, have a great rest of your week. Do you like the show? Do you hate the show? Are you indifferent to the show? No matter what, you should probably let us know what we're doing so we can change it to better suit you, the listener's needs. You can go to either bit.ly/BOScontact, which is a contact form page you can use. Also, you can just email us directly at 30minutereviews@gmail.com. If you have questions that you would like us to answer, we can answer them on the air. We have a few questions every week that will be selected to be answered on air. So if you want to tell us what we should do, or if you have a suggestion for a movie or a TV show or something we should cover, go to bit.ly/BOScontact and also email us 30minutereviews@gmail.com.